Mental hospital employees, who's the scariest patient you've ever had to deal with? I worked at a residential school for emotionally disturbed children while I was in college. The school housed boys and girls who'd been removed from abusive families. Each dorm had 2 childcare workers per shift, and there could be up to 12 kids per dorm. At different times, I worked on both sides. The boys were usually straightforward. If they wanted to hurt you, they'd haul off and punch you. The girls, though, good lord. They were manipulative, cunning, and sometimes just plain terrifying. On one of the girls' dorms, it was me and another worker named Marlene. One of the girls, a small, quiet 14-year-old named Trisha, absolutely hated Marlene. We never found out exactly why. Trisha would crawl up into the top shelf of her closet, lie there in the dark for who knows how long, and wait. When Marlene came looking for her, Trisha would leap out and attack, scratching, kicking, and biting. It was like something out of a horror movie. Most days were manageable, though. We tried to give them structure, chores, activities, small responsibilities. Every week, we took them to the laundromat so they could do their own laundry. It usually went fine, until one afternoon when a tiny girl named Felicia decided to lose her mind in public. Felicia was barely 5 feet tall and maybe 90 pounds, but she was all fury. She started hurling detergent boxes, dumping soap powder on the floor, and getting in the other girls' faces. When she tried to corner another girl and threaten her, we had to step in. Restraint training was part of the job, but no one ever liked doing it, especially in public. My coworker got Felicia to the ground while I tried to secure her arms. You're not allowed to hurt the kids, so everything has to be done carefully. Somehow, Marlene let her forearm drift too close to Felicia's mouth, and Felicia latched on like a pit bull. Blood poured from the bite. At that exact moment, 2 bystanders in the laundromat started yelling at us, screaming that we were abusing this poor girl, threatening to call the police. Meanwhile, Felicia still had her teeth sunk into my coworker. I turned to them, keeping my voice steady, and explained that we worked for Brookside Residential and were trained to restrain violent children. Once I mentioned the facility by name, they backed off quick. We got Felicia under control, called the supervisor, and transported her back. Marlene had to go to the ER for stitches. I had blood all over my shirt. That wasn't even the worst day. A few months later, a substitute childcare worker named Denise thought it'd be a great idea to bring a butcher knife to the dorm so she could cut a watermelon. I didn't even know she had it until chaos broke out. One of our more volatile girls, Sasha, got hold of the knife. I walked back into the main area just in time to see her waving it at the other girls, while Denise stood there with her hand out, saying, "Give it to me." Sasha slashed her palm open and bolted outside, screaming. By the time I followed, she'd taken the knife to the inflatable bouncy castle we had set up for summer rec time, stabbing it repeatedly until it deflated. Then she shattered one of the dorm's plastic windows, used the jagged edge to scrape her own wrist, and screamed that she wanted to die. We had to wait for backup from the main office. When they arrived, we surrounded her slowly, talking the whole time until she dropped the knife. We restrained her and brought her into the quiet room, a padded room with a viewing window. She stayed there for a few hours under constant watch. Denise ended up quitting the next day. My now husband, Mark, worked over on the boys' dorm. He wasn't spared from the madness either. Once, he had to put a small boy named Kevin in the quiet room after a fight. Kevin looked calm and cooperative, so Mark walked him in without trouble. As Mark turned to leave, Kevin grabbed a hidden cup of pee he'd stashed behind the door and flung it right in his face. Mark came back out gagging, dripping, and swearing under his breath. Somehow, through all of that, Mark and I actually met and started dating at that job. The night it happened was pure chaos. Every single dorm, 6 of them, erupted at once. 78 kids and maybe 15 staff. Broken windows, screaming, fighting, alarms going off. They called it the Brookside Riot. One girl in my dorm, Vanessa, claimed she'd drunk nail polish. I had to call the nurse. Vanessa insisted she drank it until the nurse told her she'd have to take Ipecac to vomit it up. Ipecac tastes awful and makes you violently ill. The second she heard that, Vanessa dropped the act and showed us where she'd poured the polish out. She'd just smeared some around her mouth for effect. The nurse was so furious, I thought she might make Vanessa drink it anyway. The riot started around 10 p.m. and by 11, the overnight shift showed up. Just 1 staff member per dorm. It took both shifts working together until after 1 a.m. to calm everyone down. When it was finally over, the building was trashed. Everyone was sweaty and exhausted, and I just stood there with Mark, who I barely knew back then. "I'm going home to get drunk," I said. "You want to come?" He just nodded. "Yeah, we've been together ever since. Married 35 years this May." Our own kids were pretty normal, all things considered. Never had to put them in a quiet room even once.